Everyone, and thank you for joining us on the program. We apologize for starting quite late. I am Nifemi Okuntoye. Met with the 18 political parties yesterday, offering them the cleaned up register voter, which is now well over 90 million. We have the demographic and the numbers. I believe Lagos is leading with the highest number of registered voters, followed by Kano and Kaduna. And INEC is saying that its election timetable is sacrosanct. It's not thinking of rescheduling. Recall that the election in 2015 was rescheduled for some 6 weeks as a result of insecurity concerns, and some hours to the election in 2019 when INEC decided to also extend it by a week, given logistic and operational plans reason. This election has already been postponed. If you remember that it was initially scheduled to hold on the 18th of February, but INEC now, I think, postponed it to the 25th thereabout. Interesting days ahead. INEC is saying that it's not changing its mind as regards the timetable. The federal government is insisting, Mr. President actually last year did say that he has provided INEC with everything it will need for this forthcoming election. Remember, we had a conversation with the INEC National Commissioner asking him if INEC has everything, and he's also has raised the issue of security as perhaps the only concern for INEC as we count down to the election. INEC is meeting with security stakeholders. The military is promising that all hands will be on deck to ensure that Nigeria is safe for the forthcoming election. Stakeholders are also saying that things are much better than it was in 2015, and that if countries that are war-torn can hold elections, then Nigeria is good to go. But our attention this morning is turned to the role that corruption is playing as an electoral issue, and we've called it official corruption. You know, there are talks as to how corruption has been institutionalized over the years by successive governments in Nigeria. And most presidential candidates have also identified corruption as the big elephant in the room. Now, many of them are also coming up with proposed template on how to fix what appears to be a major challenge and an impediment to national development. However, most of these major candidates have also come into this election with some allegations of corruption hanging on their neck, and at one or the other time while they were in government, all of them have also now said that, well, there is nothing, you've got nothing on me. Nigeria, as we speak today, is ranked the second most corrupt country in West Africa after Guinea. It's Nigeria's second consecutive year of a downward spiral when you take a look at the Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index ranking. The latest ranking is expected on the last day of this year to know how Nigeria has fared in the past year. But the country score has dropped from 26 in 2019 to 25 in 2020 and 24 in 2021. Government has debated over the years the accuracy of this figure and whether or not it reflects the true state of things within Nigeria. You recall Mr. President saying that he has not even a foot-inch of property outside the country, and that he is intending to stay back in Nigeria after he leaves office, priding himself as perhaps a leader that is not corrupt. But how will the presidential candidates address all of these corruption challenges? What have we heard them say? And how much relevance is the issue of corruption playing in the ongoing electoral process? I'm joined this morning by Aliyu Audu, who is the National Youth Spokesman of the Tinubu-Shettima Presidential Campaign Council. And we'll be talking about issues around the party and reaction to some germane issues that have been raised in recent days. We'll take a short break and we'll be back. Stay with us.
The National Assembly is a busy place. As the bastion of democracy, it is a place where bills are presented, motions debated, laws made, and the yearnings of the people are laid bare. Come with us as we take you through the workings of the National Assembly. We take you through plenary, committee meetings, and probes, all to ensure smooth working of the democratic process.
Politics is defined as getting what, where, when, and how. But in the mix, many things come to play to shape the political fortune of any country.
Honorable Minister, that's how you misinform the public.
From the political actors to the electorate, campaign to voting, from debates to policy decisions, big events happen to engage us in constant conversation.
That's what we're looking for. Not some people who are talking about ethnicity. No.
Who is on your mind?
Don't worry.
Join me every day on Politics Tonight, where we dissect issues that shape our political destiny. Politics Tonight, weekdays on TVC News.
In the month of January 2023, the 4th of January is dedicated to World Braille Day to celebrate the inventor Louis Braille. On 6th January, it will be 2 years when U.S. Capitol was attacked by the then President Donald Trump supporters. On 8th January 2020, Ukraine International Airline Flight 752 was shut down shortly after takeoff. 15th January is the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, which marks the end of the Civil War in 1970. 24th January is International Education Day. On 27th January, it will be 21 years after the Ikeja cantonment blast occurred. 29th January is World Leprosy Day, observed to create awareness on the disease. Stay tuned to TVC News as we serve you with reports and analyses on these notable events.
Thanks for staying with us. Aliyu Audu is the National Youth Spokesman, Tinubu Shatima Presidential Campaign Council. He joins us live from our studio in Abuja. Mr. Audu, a lot has been said about how corruption is perhaps one of Nigeria's biggest problems as we head into a general election. Do you think that candidates are yielding to the kind of public scrutiny that is needed before an election?
Well, good morning, Nigerians. It's pretty tricky when it comes to that, and it's because it's usually borders on, moral value of individuals and not necessarily legal. You know, there have been like a lot of corruption allegations here and there. Some rumored, some have been pushed forward. Some other people have supported their claim with some sort of evidence. You know how it is as far as there's no conviction, and it only remains what it is, you know, for people to be aware of the characters and, you know, people behind the ballots and, people on the ballots, and help individuals make their decision on how to vote going into the 2023 general election.
So you're saying we might have to rely on the moral value of individual candidates. You see, many of the main presidential candidates have had their fair share of corruption allegations, and all of them have denied it, denied wrongdoing. Do you think it will be easy for Nigerians to decipher, to identify what the truth is as to their corruption status?
Yes, it is, usually, especially when, the media, then individuals who are very informed on these issues are able to carry out independent investigation into such allegations and bring to fore facts that are, verifiable, and help others who do not have access to such information. It's our responsibility to, share information as far as it is correct and true, share information and help the majority of, electorate make decisions. It's the very one we've just been exposed to recently happens to be one that, many people who have followed the polity from 99 till date is very aware of, not just within the country. I mean, it's been linked to some sort of personnel, you know, some public officials in the United States who, by one link or another, it's connected to this. And when you look at this particular case, and you can see some sort of connection, there's similarity in the way and manner the corruption of the convicted congressman in America back in 2009. I think that was when I think investigation started 2005, and he was finally convicted in 2009. And the conviction, the similarity, and the link with what's out there currently points us in the direction that there's a lot of truth. As much as I personally would not, you know, support the way and manner in which a former employee or associate or a subordinate, whatever way to put it, you know, there's something unethical about how this is coming out, but we can't run away from the truth contained in it.
So you probably are talking about the issue with the PDP presidential candidate. Your party has asked him to come out clean on two issues, one of which is his health status and the audio clip released by someone who has called himself his former aide, revealing how he allegedly colluded with his former boss to use government money via the special purpose vehicle to fund political activities. You know that some will say confessions like these are the handiworks of politicians, a politically motivated attempt to discredit the opponent, and that some would say your party is complicit.
I mean, we have been at the receiving side of such thing in the past, but when you look at the documents and in the two cases and investigate clean and clear mind, you are able to relate with a particular one. I mean, this fellow who has come out with this, you know, audio has gone ahead to swear to an affidavit. You know, I mean, his confidence to go ahead and swear to an affidavit shows how convinced he is about what he's saying. And I have listened to the audio recording, and I can confirm that it's the voice of the presidential candidate of the PDP, and the names mentioned are familiar. Countries. Then the link with the spouse of such an official, even though the official, the Nigerian official wasn't named. I mean, there was a link to a spouse of such official that resided in the United States of America. When you put all of this together and realize that in the statement, in the court statement in that investigation, it was equally revealed that the corruption was done via SPVs. It wasn't an open corruption, but corruption by stealth. You know, it's same style. The individuals involved are linked, and clearly, because of the way and manner the person involved went about it, his principal at the time, whose open convention on the character of these individuals equally supports this. You know, I mean, it shows clearly that the principal knew so much about it, but could not do anything about it because, I mean, he was, whether he, with his, how do I even put it? Intention, whether it's intentional on his part, it's somehow connected, or he was somehow connected to it, and there was no way he was going to take legal action on the individual without indicting himself. You know, which led to a lot of political instability at that time. I mean, it has really had a very huge negative impact on a lot of individuals who have been fingered in this allegation. And it brought to light, I mean, it brought some sort of clarity to why certain political decisions were taken by the then leader of the country, and how it set us back as a nation in terms of development. you know, in terms of not being able to come through with, you know, a lot of steps taken by the government to fight corruption, because the people who were supposed to fight were one way or another very involved in it.
So it's interesting what the position of the APC has been. I'm going to quote the director of media of your party's Presidential Campaign Council, who had said that if Atiku had some modicum of honor, he ought to have stepped down from the presidential race, that he's bound to lose again. You know, have you wondered if the APC is willing to be measured by the same standard it's seeking from others? Because your presidential candidate has also, like you said earlier, has a litany of accusations. Has your party shown example, a standard, you know, as to how other parties should follow when these allegations come?
All right. As similar as the two cases are, yes, I agree that, I mean, what's good for the goose is equally good for the gander. But when you look at the two scenarios, they're a bit different, because in this case, there is not, I mean, the presidential candidate of the PDP would have to come out to tell us, you know, I have listened to the audio. We all have, I don't think anyone in this country will listen to that audio and have doubt as to the authenticity of it. Yes, we can have issues about how the audio came about, but that's his voice. That's a very serious allegation. That's a very serious indictment. It's expectedly honorable of such a person about it. We live in a country where everything is almost politically sponsored in the eyes of every other person. So it is your responsibility, you know, to come out and clear your name. We have your voice out there. You have mentioned people. You have related to scenarios that we are all, you know, very aware of. Let's go back to the ecological fund scandal, the one that led to a former governor being in prison. You know, in the court statement, you know, it's stated somewhere that the former president returned his own share of it. And what the presidential candidate has only said in this video, in the audio recorded, isn't that there was no corruption. What he basically said is, it can't be traced to me. I did it, but it cannot be traced to me. And he gave reason why it cannot be traced to him. And he equally said that it was even on his own advisor, his then principal. He advised his then principal to not do open corruption. I mean, he did in any way in that video kick against corruption. He only kick against it being open. So as far as you can be corrupt and be discreet about it, that this gives us the clarity as to the confidence is always high that nothing can be traced to him because he's been a corruption by stealth. You know, he set up special purpose vehicles to take funds from the public coffers for personal businesses, for political running. I do not think there is a problem with having political parties raise funds. No, that is how a political party is supposed to be managed. You have your party members, you have supporters, you have other allies in the business who should come and, you know, donate to how party is run. That is supposed to be normal. That's supposed to be open. That's supposed to be, you know, legal. But in a case where you said you set up a company to take funds from public offers to run a party, it's corruption. You know, if everything you have done is to not stop the corruption, but to just make sure you are able to do it without being caught in it, then we have evidence out there. It is always going to generate reaction. And for our own campaign council, just like with respect for anyone, any other campaign council, we are saying, we are not even, stepping down is one thing. Come out clean on this. Tell us, we can hear your voice. These are the things you've said. I really do not think that it is very, it is expected of such candidates to stand in front of any group of people and ask them to vote for you. When you have your voice out there, saying this, and we all agree that corruption is number one problem we have faced in our country since, for decades. It's still a cancer we're trying to
find a way. I mean, we can't totally eradicate it, but reduce it to the barest minimum. But for number one,
Mr. Audi, I see that you're talking about the moral angle to this and how it makes a presidential candidate look. I'd like us to also draw a correlation between two events in our recent history, because you mentioned the issue of the former governor who was jailed. We'll talk about that shortly, but let's take a short break and we'll be back with more. Stay with us.
The National Assembly is a busy place. As the bastion of democracy, it is a place where bills are presented, motions debated, laws made, and the yearnings of the people are laid bare. Come with us as we take you through the workings of the National Assembly. We take you through plenary, committee meetings, and probes, all to ensure smooth working of the democratic process.
Never miss a moment. Instant breaking news from all over the globe. Live streaming of your favorite programs delivered directly to you. Watch anytime from anywhere on your TVC News app today. Available on Google Play and Apple Store.
Politics is defined as getting what, where, when, and how. But in the mix, many things come to play to shape the political fortune of any country.
Honorable Minister, that's how you misinform the public.
From the political actors to the electorate, campaign to voting, from debates to policy decisions, big events happen to engage us in constant conversation.
That's what we're looking for. Not some people who are talking about ethnicity. No.
Who is on your mind?
Don't worry.
Join me every day on Politics Tonight, where we dissect issues that shape our political destiny. Politics Tonight, weekdays on TVC News.
It's always a great morning on the TVC Breakfast Show.
Thanks for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
With the array of stories that matter and what's behind them.
As you say, the first blow indicates the direction of government.
Tell us what really is going on between your union and the federal government.
Once it's generated,
if you don't use it, it's waste. We are not even sure whether we have a strategy for security.
Are you saying that there was nothing wrong in that?
Was he the one driving the taxi?
Answer the question.
Reveal your morning with all you need to know.
Like
yes, just mundane lyrics.
Yes.
How does that fit into your scheme of events or duties right now?
No chief of staff, no general has the right to call a governor to order. The governor has been elected by his people.
Start your day right, because this is the breakfast show that adds to your breakfast. TVC Breakfast, weekdays at 7 a.m. only on
Thanks for staying the course on the program. Aliyu Aldu is the National Youth Spokesman to Tinubu Shettima Presidential Campaign Council. He joins me live from our studio in Abuja. He's also raised the issue of an audio leak involving the former Vice President and PDP presidential candidate, alleging his use of a special purpose vehicle to fund political activities. Mr. Aldu, thank you for staying the course on the program. So you talked about the former governor. You recall that in this particular audio leak that we're talking about, the PDP presidential candidate was alleged to have admitted to collect 100 billion naira from one Joshua Daria, former Plateau State governor, which was paid directly to Marine Float. Now, Daria was convicted and jailed for criminal misappropriation. Recall that happening, and there was a criminal breach of trust. He was found to have looted 2 billion naira in public funds during his time as governor between 1999 and 2007. But the same Daria was one of the two former governors that were pardoned by the incumbent administration. There are some who saw that as an act of a huge rollback on the gains in the fight against corruption. How do you react to that?
In all honesty, I agree with the position of such people, and I hold that position myself. But I believe the government of President Muhammad Buhari, our government, I'm not privy to reasons as to why that pardon was given. I mean, it's within the powers of the president to give that power, and he did that. And he probably had his reasons for doing that. Yes, I do agree that we will not be doing the fight against corruption any justice or any good. We continue to make it seem like people can be caught, convicted, be set free. We're not setting, the right tone for people to actually know the implication of abusing public offices, especially, having some financial advantage, at the expense of the nation.
How will you rate how the Buhari administration has fared, in its fight against corruption? Because that was one of the major issues with which this government campaigned with. I'd like you to analyze that vis-a-vis an index, the corruption perception index is saying in the past couple of years.
All right. The first thing I would want us to understand is how deep corruption. Holders in private, public office holders in private conversation talk about the political economics of corruption and how our entire economy is somewhat linked with corrupt funds, and that's how a lot of people get. I mean, there's been some sort of legitimacy established in businesses that feeds off corrupt funds. It's pretty difficult to approach this from the angle we have been fighting it. However, I have reasons to think that the President Muhammad Buhari administration has done fairly well in the sense that I will rate it 65%. In terms of how many convictions they've been able to get, how do I get it now? The money they've been able to get back, assets that have been able to seize from these people, and how people in offices usually were never, really indicted or even taken away or out of their offices while in office. But under President Muhammad Buhari, we saw from 2006 how the then sitting SGF, was indicted in the grass-cutting allegation, which eventually led to his removal. We can talk about a number of other public officials removed from their offices for investigation to be carried out and then getting indicted. We are not there yet. There's still a lot that needs to be done. There's still, in the process of trying to prevent or predict and correct some of these corrupt practices, there are a lot of processes that need to be improved on. But I would say, yes, we have moved in the right direction, probably not as much as we should have. And that gives me hope, because I am, backing a candidate who is very knowledgeable in terms of process improvement, who, while occupying office as governor, was able to put in place processes and systems that prevent corruption in the first place. Because we can carry as many as 50, 60 former governors who have stolen our commonwealth and locked them in Kirikiri or in Kuje prison. It will do nothing to our economy. It will do nothing to our economy. It will do anything to the life of the average man out there. The very responsibility of the government is first to prevent it. And I have confidence in my presidential candidate because of what he's been able to do to block leakages, loopholes, while he was governor of Lagos State, that, a lot is going to be put into preventing it as against waiting for people to get caught and then punish them. No. We need to do more in prevention, and we need to do more. We need to be more tactical in predicting and correcting some of these corrupt practices.
You talked about the increase in conviction, and you've scored the Buhari administration 65% in its fight against corruption. So EFCC says it secured 3,785 convictions last year, and it's a huge increment, in all honesty, from previous convictions that we've had from the agency. But does a higher number in conviction really means that corruption is being fought, or perhaps depicts that corruption is even more endemic? What's your thought about that?
Yes, I agree. I mean, I do not think that we are going to have success overnight. I believe in process, and sometimes process takes time. While it is our responsibility as a governing party or government in power to ensure that we speed up these processes and ensure that we achieve more within a shorter period of time, we must equally appreciate them. Then when you look at the agencies, we look at go through the national budget and look at the budget of the agencies, the EFCC, the ICPC, and CCB, you realize that the budget they have to work with, compared to the figures that are stolen, then, I mean, I don't think I have the power, but I think our judiciary equally, would have to come to table with the executive arm of the body, of the government, to ensure that we collectively fight against this, demon that is eating us up, that will kill us. Like I said earlier, all of the convictions, all of the retrieval made, I see them as corrective. Most importantly, we need to be able to prevent it from happening. And then we need to be able to predict, and move swiftly as against being reactionary to, we need to be able to stop it from happening. We need to create a system where it is abnormal. Corruption, you look at how our government agencies are set up, you realize that it is not easy for an individual, even if you are the CEO of the unit, to single-handedly carry out this process. There are usually connivance from a lot of people within the system and outside the system. Until we make it a national struggle, until we realize it's everybody's responsibility to help stop the corruption. And that is the responsibility of the government. You need to let the people understand how this affects us, how roads, that should have been built are converted into funds that are used to buy, SUVs driven on bad roads. The people who are still in it don't care. And they have beneficiaries down the line who will watch their back, who will come on air and protect them. If we really want to build a nation that works, and we know how, it is easily taken as a political witch hunt when someone is being, taken up on these corrupt practices. If we are going to fight corruption, we need to institutionalize a system that prevents it first, then put a system together that predicts, corrupt practices and move to check it. As against just waiting for people to steal, have enough money to bribe the best lawyers and even corrupt judges, then you have 80% going away, then 20% get caught, and it's discouraging when someone who is convicted of billions of naira is asked to pay a few millions and walk. You don't give hope to the people of the country that you're truly serious about the fight against corruption. These are the places we need to improve on as government, and I'm confident. Like I said earlier, my presidential candidate as governor of Lagos brought in the Oracle database system with which, corruption through salaries were checked. It was in the public domain how money otherwise meant for a month's salary was used to pay a couple of months' salary when the system started working. People will resist it. That's change. People usually resist change, however good it is. But it is your responsibility to be consistent and ensure you carry everybody along and put a system into work that prevents it, as against waiting for people to have enough money in their pocket to fight the system.
You probably will agree that successive governments have been reactive rather than preventive, based on what you've said. In May last year, the EFCC, for instance, arrested the Accountant General of the Federation for allegedly stealing 80 billion And that's huge. He was accused of diverting public funds by compromising government account systems. And these are the systems that the current administration prides itself on, the TSA, the IPPIS. So the question really would be, how is the All Progressives Congress viewing this indictment, on its administration, and how does it seek to persuade Nigerians that the incoming government would do better?
All right. The fact is, we will only be lying to ourselves, or to ourselves, most importantly, if we come out to say that the fight against corruption has been, excellent. No, it hasn't been. But I have seen improvement compared to where we're coming from, and I'm of the belief that we can only get better. And the belief is even strengthened by the quality of presidential candidate we are backing, we are presenting, and that's why we worked to ensure that we have the best presidential candidate, that will build on what we have started. Nobody would expect that all of this will be done overnight. It's going to take time, but we need to see results as we move. And like I said earlier, I am very sure that with the right system put in place, 75 to 80% of what we call corruption will easily be checked. Automation, check and balances here and there, when activated, fully activated and entrenched in our governance system. We saw it in Lagos. We saw how people who were paid multiple salaries over the table, people who were collecting salaries for a number of people who were not on any payroll. We're just forged and put there. How a simple payroll system, automated payroll system from Oracle, checked all of this. If you cannot, if you don't have access to manipulating the system, I do agree that every system's got a loophole. Every system has a way of being compromised, but we need to make it a matter of culture. It's now a norm. Go away from the government circle, from public service, the private sector, the individuals, the day-to-day man. It's like a trendy thing to be corrupt. There's no honor in being honorable anymore. It's like a cool thing. We've managed to make it look so cool to be corrupt, because we've had people who have been elevated, who have been hailed, who have been praised, feeding on corrupt funds. The society's got a role to play. The government's got a role to play. But going by the antecedent of all of the candidates vying for #1 seat today on corruption, I can easily point to my candidate as by far the best, who have put in a system and has shown results. We have seen how money that could have been going into private pockets go into public projects. We have seen infrastructural renewal. In state he has managed. We have seen how revenue generated
have only improved on them, because there is, a basic line that no one can afford to go below. That's why it is very important to have someone who believes in the need to do something, knows how.
In the need to do something, knows how to do it, and always working with the right set of people to ensure continuity and ensure continuous improvement in fighting that. We have achieved so much in the last 7 years, no doubt, because if you look at how much we have generated, how much we have earned as a country in the last 7 years plus, compared to how much we had generated in the previous 16 years, you find out that it's just a fraction of what we have, what we had access to prior to the coming of this government. But when we look at what has been achieved in the last 7 years, you will know that if there were no loopholes blocked, if there were no process put in place to prevent or correct some of these corrupt practices, we would not have been able to achieve.
Mr. Aldo, let's quickly take a look at the updated voter register presented to the 18 political parties yesterday by INEC. We now have 93.4 million registered voters ahead the 2023 general election, and almost 40% of these people are between the age of 18 and 34. How does that impact on your projection, particularly getting youth support for the APC for this election?
Yes, I mean, we have always known that the young people will play a very strong role, strategic role in the coming election, and the young people within the party, the APC, have been at the forefront of the fight to put the country back, on track of for development and the good of majority, if not all. It's not just now, because as much as we want young people to get involved and make decisions, there are a lot of processes, a lot of systems, a lot of knowledge that things seem to be lacking. In young people, there's poor information about where we're coming from, where we currently are, how we got here. If you don't have this information, if you don't have this knowledge, you find it difficult to be able to actually work out how to get out of it or how to move forward. That young people have not been, really integrated in the governance of this country. And I would tell clearly that in the last 20, 30 years, the young people have shown to be more patriotic than the older generation, no doubt, across parties. And what we see out there has just been nothing but reaction from non-inclusion of these young people. However, in my political party, young people have not waited to be given. We have not waited for someone to come out and call themselves, the knight with the shining armor, then get us to rally around. No, we have looked through the track record of all of the major players on the national scene. We have followed them. We have fought within the system. You are aware that we, the young people, came together in 2017 and decided to look. We looked at what has been achieved as at 2 years of that time, and passed, give a pass mark on achievement on President Muhammadu Buhari, and we went ahead to start a group, Nigeria Consolidation Ambassadors Network, that bought the nomination form for his re-election in 2019. That was the young people thing. We young people in the party did it. And after that, we went ahead to ensure that we clean up our party system on the ground that as young people were more interested in having a party that works for all, not just for a selected few. We have a party where everybody feels like, you have a say, you have a role to play, and nobody is going to use his position or his financial strength to muzzle you out. We came up with what we call the APC Rebate Movement, with which we fought to ensure that the right thing is done. We had our convention to ensure we enthroned good, legitimate leadership of the party we did. And we had the convention that led to the emergence of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu as our presidential candidate. Young people in the party played a major role in this, in the defense of the government, in the defense of the party, in selling our policies and selling our achievement to
Mr.
the
Haudu,
public.
quickly, let us look at how this translates to the bigger picture, because we have to wrap up now. I believe that you follow the conversation online.
Yes.
The
bigger picture is right now.
Yes. Just a minute. There's a divided opinion as to whether most of the young people who will vote in this election are online. But if you're online, you will hear certain mindset and perception as to categorizing both the APC and the PDP as being responsible for the corruption that we're talking about. Do you think that your party will be able to convince these young people ahead of the February election?
Yes, we are aware of that, just like we are aware that there's a lot of misinformation, like I've said earlier, about most people. We have just a few of young people online, because I don't think I have ever seen any of such tweets that's gathered as much as 500,000 retweets or 500,000 likes. Where we are talking about national election that deals with tens of millions, that's small, that's marginal. We young people who believe in the APC, who believe in our candidate, We are in our millions, and we are doing everything possible to inform and educate our fellow young people in the country, giving them perspectives. You know, we need to, we've been educating them on how they should, you know, put their mind on facts. You know, if we are going to really work for a country that will work for us, then we need to do that on truth. We don't need anybody telling us their version of the history.
I get your point, Mr. Audu.
Look at what happened, what individuals have done.
That's our time. We have to go now. Aliyu Audu is the National Youth Spokesman, Tinubu Shettima Presidential Campaign Council. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us on the program this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we sincerely apologize if you tried calling in. We had issues with our phone today. You can explore online alternatives subsequently using the hashtag ThisMorningTVC. You can also tag me on Twitter at Nifemi Oguntoye. I'll see you again tomorrow, God willing. Have a great day.